Hey everyone, it's Kai, and today we're talking about clan collection again because it is hype. It is hype, right? Basically, every day they're revealing, every business day, they're revealing one new clan support. So we get to look at it and go, wow, that's cool. But basically, we're going to go through last week's reveals and talk about it after we did some play testing. I can give you some ideas, some thoughts, how good it is, those kind of stuff. But today we're also going to talk about Grand Blue, right? Because this was the reveal today. And Grand Blue is a bit hype, right? You know, Grand Blue is one of those clans, similar to Dark Regulars, where people like it. And usually they have good support. Now, I don't know if this support that we're getting is better than like the support that we already had with Night Rose, because Night Rose is just a solid deck. But it looks like a much more easier deck to play. So for someone like me who doesn't like thinking too much, that this is kind of perfect. Of course it is, like, since it's being released now, it's also much more accessible. So let's take a look at it and see how it is. So first we have Sea Strolling Banshee. The first effect is pretty much a Foolish Burial. When placed on the Vanguard circle, you search your deck for a card and you put it into the drop zone. And the second effect is on the Regard circle. At the end of the battle when it attacks or boosts, you mill the top two. You can mill the top two cards of the deck. Optional. And then if you mill at least one trigger unit, you can retire this Sea Strolling Banshee and then draw a card. So it's kind of nice. Mills, hand filters or draws, and you can also empty the board kind of thing. So it's got all of it. It's also got a Foolish Burial, right? When you ride it, so pretty good. The second effect is Pinot Blanc, and her first effect is when your Vanguard called Pinot Noir attacks. You counterblast one, and then retire Regard, and then you draw a card, and then call this unit to a front row Regard circle. So this activates in drop, so it's making extra attacks when your Vanguard attacks. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And then the second effect is continuous on the Regard or Guardian circle. This unit cannot be attacked, and for every 3 trigger units in the drop zone, this unit gets 5,000 shield. Right, so that's pretty good, right? You put it on the field, you slap it on the field, they can't attack into it to kind of damage deny you, which is a thing. But also at the same time, if you've stacked a lot of trigger units in the drop zone, this will be an intercept, saves you from things, can stop, like, I don't know. Some people have guard restricts, Ichikishima, something like that. You can at least intercept and stop it. So that's pretty good, right? Pretty good. So overall, seems like a solid card. Also, you know, draws, I guess, when it makes the multi-attacks. That's nice. And then the grade 3 they revealed is Pinot Noir. Surprise, surprise. His first effect is continuous on the Vanguard circle during your turn for every 3 units in for every 3 trigger units in the drop zone. Your front row gets plus 5,000. So let's say you have like 12 triggers in the drop zone, your front row gets 20k. And then you can multi-attack with that, and they're all getting that 20k, they're double dipping quite heavily, so that's pretty cool. And then the second effect is Vanguard circle once per turn. During your turn, when a Pinot Blanc is placed on the Regard circle, you may Soul Blast 1, and then mill the top 2 cards of your deck, and activate all trigger effects of any triggers milled, right? They also, the mill is actually called a discard. That's kind of interesting. I'm not sure on the wording, but you know, basically you get the gist of it is you get the triggers. If you milled any triggers with that effect, you get to assign the trigger effect as well. So power and crit or power and draw, things like that, to stuff that you want. So overall, like, just looking at this card, very simple. Front row gets massive powers, well, kind of massive powers. And then you just make 5 attacks. Don't really need to think much about it. And I guess, like, the interesting thing here is that when we think about how many triggers will be in the drop zone, I think we can kind of just think, well, you'll hit around on average like 9. Like, I haven't done any maths, right? I think any serious math. This is just a thought. It'll probably hit around 9 is the average. So that's like 3 times 5,000. That's 15,000 to the front row. So you can like hit like 27. Your front row will double dip on that. On extreme cases, you'll hit like 12 plus. So that's like 20k, right? But 12 is you're nearing the end of the deck, and that also means your hand size probably doesn't have that many triggers as well, or triggers in your hand, not much. There's probably no way you're gonna hit 15 unless you're on the verge of decking out, and it's like basically your final turn, right? So, but apart from that, it means you're getting a lot of power early. The key thing about this card, though, is that it's not restricted behind a grade 3, right? Like your opponent being on grade 3. A lot of the cards that we saw so far for the clan collection requires your opponent to be on grade 3, or you had to like had some other condition where like you didn't ride this in or something like that. So it stops you from being an aggressive deck the moment you ride grade 3. But this one doesn't. This one actually has no restrictions. The moment you ride this, you can just attack 5 times, and the power just comes from how much stuff have you actually built. So this is actually very, very interesting. That's kind of like the plus for this, I guess. And yeah, looks like at least some decent support for V Premium. Not sure about Premium, right? Maybe the Grade 2 gets played in Premium, just for the possible defensive power. Maybe that's a big if. But you could just run like Beatrice, right? Beatrice can do the same thing with Trigger Ghosties. So, all right, let me know what you guys think about the new support. But let's kind of talk about the other stuff that was revealed last week. So let's start off with Ubatama. So Daihozan, right? Daihozan and his support looked kind of pretty cool. It's definitely kind of unique in that, you know, you assign attacks to your opponent, right? So whenever your opponent calls during their turn, they have to discard a card. So against multi-attack decks or multi-call decks, like a Spike Brothers, for example, you're definitely going to be able to discard their entire hand down to like 3, right? Before a drive check. Now, here's a problem. What happens after that, right? They go to 5, how do you kill them? Well, Daihozan has a great effect where, you know, if they don't really have anything on the field, you get like 5k and a drive, and then 10k and a crit. So basically he's like 27 a crit. But here's the thing, even though your opponent has not that much hand, this effect, this power line is still kind of guardable. Not that hard to guard this power line. And then usually your rear guards are hitting like a wet noodle. So the problem still kind of remains for Ubatama in that you have a great way to deplete your opponent's resources, but how do you kill them after that? Because your pressure is still non-existent. Of course, you can still always rush early and push and get your opponent's damage high, so that when they don't have any cards in the hand, they can't guard. And that's always been the plan for Ubatama. And also a reason why, like, you know, the older decks kind of worked. But nowadays, you do have that new thing called Heal Guardian that shuts down early turns. So if your early game is shut down, you're relying on your later turns, but your later turns don't really have much pressure going for it. So that is one big thing with Ubatama that I'm not liking. And of course, you can run things like Kokushi Garasu, but that kind of interferes with some of these effects, right? Because sure, you bounce, you discard, but you don't really have you don't have a way like what was the one before? I totally forgot about it. The token dude. But you don't really have a way to like selectively bounce cards before the battle phase and then use Kokushi Garasu to, like, you know, make them discard 4, like bounce 1, discard 4 kind of thing. So it's kind of iffy. You don't have Shinui's like killing potential where you play the fisherman. Oh man, I forgot all the Ubatama names, but the one that restricts your opponent from calling multiples of the same grade. So at least like Shinui has kind of an end game to go through, but the rest of the Ubatama decks don't really have that end game. They have like the early game to deplete resources, but they don't have the final blows to finish them off, which is so yeah, this doesn't really change that. In Premium though, this definitely, you have the option of playing this with Ride instead of running like Jamio or things like that. So a lot of testing can be done there. But for V Premium, unfortunately, I don't think Ubatama is that great. If you want to play Ubatama right now, I think you're still playing Shiranui. Shiranui just has the entire package going for it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The next clan we can talk about is Oracle Think Tank. So there was a lot of Tsukuyomi support. And of course I played Tsukuyomi, right? I played Tsukuyomi because, yeah, gotta give it a go. Tsukuyomi is kind of just doing the same thing, right? It's gotten more support, but it's just doing more of the same. You have more ways to, like, we still have the option of just multiple critting your opponent and just winning like that when you go first, right? At the same time, it's just overall, it's kind of similar to Ubatama. Your main game plan has now gotten more consistent, right? But the other game plan, which is your main problem before, which is finishing your opponent, still exists, right? You're still stuck behind a 3-attacker deck. Your old game plan was like playing Deers and then just, you know, winning through like super power lines. But things changed. Metagames evolved. People draw more cards. So that finisher is worse. Your earlier game is good. You're basically confirming every time you attack with Tsukuyomi, you're giving your front row 10k because you're always going to see like 2 triggers on top of your deck. Especially this card counts as the trigger. So you're always seeing 2 triggers at the top of your deck. But you're still not if you get into any sort of grind game, you're not killing your opponent, right? Because again, your attacks are very easily mapped out. You're only doing 3 attacks, and sure, they might be big. Sometimes they're not even that big, right? Sometimes, like, Neo Nectar, I feel like, is hitting high numbers on multiple columns versus, you know, Tsukuyomi, one line is big, which is nullable, but then your other lines are not hitting that power line, so it still feels really awkward. So overall, Oracle Think Tank, I'm not sure if Tsukuyomi is the play. I think something like a Battle Sister is still better. Susanoo is still better, but I think Tsukuyomi didn't really get buffed. I think in Premium, maybe it's gonna get better, but so far I'm not seeing the big dubs that we're expecting, and it's kind of expected. It's just doing more of this your old thing and not much anything new to solve the weakness, right? So unfortunate. The next one we can talk about is Tachikaze. Now, I had very little expectations for Tachikaze. I know everyone talks about how bad there's the Tachikaze lovers, there's the Tachikaze haters. I'm kind of more in the other camp. Spider Driver, though, is like that old nostalgic card that no one knows about. If you played way back, it was it was kind of fun playing it because you just keep on break running and drawing a billion cards and wow, yeah, I'm drawing cards. That's a new experience for Tachikaze, right? But interesting, Spider. I know people, like, the meta play to test this was to test it with just like a normal multi-attack deck, but I wanted to play Ancient Dragons. Right? I want to play Ancient Dragons because this is an Ancient Dragon, right? You didn't know it. All the support that Tachikaze got was Ancient Dragons, so I could just run like a Spino-centric Ancient Dragon build, and the entire idea is just trigger fronts, and then your old Ancient Dragons get crits, your new Ancient Dragons don't, which, unlucky, right? But if you Spino on Spino, you're basically like, you get like a 5 Excel circles in one turn. That's also the really cool thing, like 5 Excel circles on the second grade 3 ride, and then you trigger a front from there, while kind of half compressing your deck, I guess, with the Ancient Dragon grade 1. So that was kind of fun. Kind of fun. It did randomly win games, just because, you know, you can be a god at triggering fronts. So that was kind of fun. But overall, I actually think Spino Driver is all right. It's actually a pretty decent card. It's a great way to generate multiple Excel circles, and then if you combo it with a more serious deck, I think like a Gaia straight up is pretty cool. You can get huge powers and then still get the super multi attacks from all the red and blue dinos that you generally have. So yeah, I think Spino is pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good support, and just comes down to how you guys want to build a deck. So I think you could probably even go like Excel 1 or something like that. Like Excel 1, just hitting the big power dubs. Yeah, Spino's actually good support. I don't know what the deck is gonna be post V Clan Collection. I think it's probably gonna be maybe like a tier 2 deck, maybe a very high tier 3, but I think it's definitely somewhat decent, right? Moving on, we have some of the better clans, or better support. This Dudley Emperor is actually pretty interesting. Running this, like, unfortunately, Dudley Lucifer is like not very good, right? The other Dudley stuff is not great. I think you definitely need to find more ways to incorporate this in Spike Brothers decks. But the cool thing about Dudley Emperor is you're not grade restricted. You're not grade 3 restricted. You go first and you can just push a lot of damage, and your opponent has to, even if your opponent has a Heal Guardian to give themselves 10k to like withstand all the multi-attacks, the power lines that Dudley Emperor makes gets over them. So they'll need multiple Heal Guardians to, you know, pump up their power to like 30k to be able to successfully just negate your entire turn. But you can just go ham. You can even put Dudley Emperors in the back to boost your power lines. So overall, I think this is actually not bad. The same thing with Spike, like Dudley Emperor has the same thing that Spike Brothers usually have, is it doesn't have that much cards in their hand. And in this day and age, you know, cards in hand is just like, it's like boss, right? Everything gets a decent amount of cards in hand. Dudley doesn't, you know, it's just because you can focus on just pushing really hard. So yeah, if you like this kind of aggressive playstyle, I think this is not bad. I actually think this is not bad. I know a lot of people like Rising Novas and things like that because, you know, you make, I guess you could call it a Force 3, right? You can make it a Force 3, but this is still good. I think this is still good. You just have to, I mean, if we got even more Dudley support, I think it'd be like next level, like really decent. But so far, I think there's like probably like a solid tier 2. Yeah, surprising. And then the last one we got was Bermuda Triangle. This is Refia, I guess, and this one is kind of funky, right? This one's kind of funky. You probably won't see this card in like, you know, the current meta Prism build, like Plan or something like that. But in like a Lupina build, this is why we tested it in. It's actually pretty cool. If you think about like the numbers, right, the Lupina numbers, when you, even if you have to first ride this, giving up your attack, but you get like three cards into your hand, and then you get like, you have 3 force markers on this, on like your sides that can like make multiple attacks. That's pretty cool. And then if you ride into Lupina next turn, you make like five force markers, and you basically got like, you know, big multi attack. But then if you like ride to like Lupina into this, then you have like 5 force markers as well, and you can do multi attacks like that. But yeah, this one, I think this card actually makes Lupina very, very strong. Going second, you know, you make 3 force markers, you make multiple attacks, and then you can go into Lupina to make, you know, big columns and 5 attacks. And, you know, either way works. You could double Lupina, like the grade 3s just work. I know some people was talking in premium about like Refia Gize. Let's yeah, why not? I know, you know who you are, right? But overall, I think this is actually a pretty decent card. It's pretty unique. I like this card's design, right? You know, giving up your Vanguard attack to make lots of smaller multi attacks. But also just plussing so much is actually insane. Is this better? Is this better than Prism? We don't know. But you know, you can play the same cards as Prism. You can definitely, there's potential in this card to make other decks good. Like I just said, Lupina. It was just a quick one that came to mind, and we built that, and it just worked pretty well. So with more optimization, maybe we'll see something happen there. But you know, getting like just super big Lupina attacks, nothing can really guard that. Nothing can guard that, right? So overall, I think this is the best support we got last week. And of course, people are going to complain because it's for Bermuda Triangle, and no one likes Bermuda Triangle. But we're going to see Mega Colony support tomorrow. That will be interesting. I did want to say again, this Night Rose versus Pinot Noir will really come down to what like the Mega Colony cards do versus also what the Link Joker cards do. Because if the Link Joker stuff is amazing, the meta becomes Link Joker, then you know you're gonna see a big shift back to just Night Rose because it just empties the board. But if it doesn't, then I think Pinot Noir has some good chance of doing some work. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of the support we got last week and what we got this week so far. And I will see you guys in the next video tomorrow. All right, bye.